A brother's reckoning, the golden child's betrayal, and our parents' silent complicity. I, a 30-year-old man, am currently standing in the wreckage of my family, and I am genuinely tormented by the question of whether I am the one who lit the match. My older brother, David, 34, and I grew up with a quiet, yet ever-present, understanding that we were different. He was the golden child. The one with the blindingly bright future, the effortless charisma, the grand plans that would take him far away from our small-town life. He was the one our father, a man of simple means but immeasurable pride, would talk about at every family gathering. "David's going to build something," he'd say, his voice thick with a mixture of reverence and admiration. "He's too ambitious to stay here." David, with his easy smile and boundless confidence, seemed to embody everything our father aspired to be. I, on the other hand, was always the practical one. The quiet, reliable son who stayed close to home, who got a stable job, who was simply there. Our parents, I truly believe, never intended to make me feel less, but their boundless encouragement for David's grand, distant ventures often felt like a silent judgment on my own stable, local life. The past event that shaped our dynamic was when David announced he was moving to a different state for a tech startup right after college. Our father, against the advice of my mother and a financial advisor, liquidated a significant portion of his retirement fund to give David a kickstart, a sum he called seed money, for David's dreams. I remember the look on David's face as he accepted it, not one of gratitude, but of entitlement, as if this was his birthright. My own tuition for a local state university was paid for, but every extra expense, every financial goal, was entirely my responsibility. My path, a career as a high school science teacher, was met with polite nods, veiled skepticism, and pointed questions about when I'd pursue something more lucrative, or move somewhere more exciting. Their pride in David was a tangible, overriding force that filled every room in our home, while my quiet contributions were largely unnoticed. There was a deep-seated tension in our relationship, a silent rivalry that I always tried to suppress. I loved David, of course, but his effortless existence often felt like a painful, constant reminder of my own perceived lesser status. This core imbalance, buried beneath years of forced smiles and unspoken pain, was about to erupt with devastating consequences for all of us. The slow, grinding build-up to this family implosion has been a relentless, crushing pressure beneath the surface of my life for the past 5 years. It began shortly after our father, a man of simple pleasures and routines, was diagnosed with early-stage dementia. His condition, while manageable at first, required increasing care, attention, and constant supervision. My mother, a devoted but somewhat frail woman, found herself quickly overwhelmed. I, living only a few miles away, immediately stepped up to fill the void, managing their finances, attending every doctor's appointment, navigating complex paperwork, and providing constant emotional and practical support. My life, once defined by my career and my love of hiking, quickly shrank to a relentless cycle of doctor's visits, meal prep, and late-night calls. David, living thousands of miles away, remained largely a distant voice. He'd call my parents once a week, offer emotional support, which usually meant suggesting Mom, get a spa day, or focus on positive energy, and occasionally send a thoughtful, but utterly useless, gadget. His practical contributions were virtually non-existent. He promised to visit for a long weekend, then cancel last minute, citing an urgent client meeting or a big merger that couldn't be missed. The emotional distance that had been established in our youth now felt like an unbreachable chasm, filled with my unspoken sacrifice and his seeming indifference. As my father's condition slowly declined, with the onset of more pronounced physical limitations, my burden became immense. I balanced my demanding teaching career with daily visits and constant vigilance. I tried, gently at first, to discuss sharing the overwhelming burden. David, Dad needs more consistent help. Could you commit to flying in for a full week once a quarter to relieve me? I'd ask, desperate for a reprieve. He'd sigh, a familiar, exasperated sound. Mark, you know my career is in a critical expansion phase right now. I can't just drop everything. Besides, you're so good at organizing everything, you're always so in control. And I provide emotional support, that's my role, isn't it? Her words, delivered with such an air of casual dismissal, were the final spark. The early warning signs were screaming at me, constant panic attacks, waking up drenched in cold sweat, consumed by anxiety about Dad's care and David's seemingly blissful indifference. I started to notice small, troubling changes in our father's finances. Money was disappearing from his account faster than I could account for it with medical bills and care expenses. When I gently brought it up to my mother, she'd wave her hand dismissively. "Oh, your father must be forgetting things, dear. He's always been a little forgetful with money." But the numbers on the spreadsheets, which I had so meticulously created, told a different story. The total was too large, the transactions too frequent. It was as if a slow, insidious leak was draining their life savings, and I, consumed by years of unacknowledged sacrifice and the shocking discovery of his profound betrayal, finally erupted in a desperate plea for justice. I knew with a terrifying certainty that the dam was about to burst, revealing a gaping, festering wound of unfairness, unacknowledged sacrifice, and a dark secret that was slowly, insidiously coming to light. The powder keg finally detonated last Sunday morning. I had called David, insisting he fly in for a crucial, non-negotiable family meeting at our parents' house. Dad's dementia had progressed to a point where he needed almost constant supervision, and his medical bills, combined with his declining pension, meant their savings would be depleted within a year. The in-home care agency we'd been researching, which offered specialized care, cost nearly $10,000 a month. David arrived late, looking impeccable from his flight but otherwise cheerful, carrying a large, brightly colored abstract painting. He greeted Mom warmly, then turned to me with a casual wave. "Hey, Mark. What's the big emergency? I had to cut short a very important business meeting, you know." I laid out the grim financial facts, my voice strained but steady. I presented a meticulously prepared spreadsheet detailing Dad's dwindling income, his escalating medical expenses, and the projected astronomical costs of his long-term care. David barely glanced at it. He scoffed, a nervous, dismissive sound. Whoa, Mark. That's a lot of numbers. You know my career is in a critical expansion phase right now. I just took out a huge business loan. I can't just pull that kind of cash out of thin air. You're always so dramatic about money. Besides, you're the one who manages Mom and Dad's accounts. Haven't you been handling things? Her words, delivered with such an air of casual dismissal, were the final spark. The years of resentment, the endless sacrifices, the unacknowledged burden, and now, his implied accusation of my financial mismanagement, it all exploded. Manage their accounts? I shrieked, my voice cracking, tears of rage blurring my vision. I've been doing more than just managing them, David. I've been propping them up. And while I was trying to make ends meet for their care, I noticed something. Something you conveniently forgot to mention. I pulled out a printout of our parents' bank statements, highlighting several large, undocumented transfers. These, David. These are massive transfers from Mom and Dad's joint account to your business account. Tens of thousands of dollars. Over the past 5 years. What? Is this? My voice was raw, guttural. David's face went white. His composure shattered. What are you talking about? He hissed, his eyes darting nervously towards Dad, who was watching us with a confused, slightly bewildered expression, and Mom, who looked utterly lost. Those were investments, Mark. Family investments. For my business. They believe in my vision. I was going to pay them back. It's not your business. Investments? I roared, stepping closer to him, my body trembling with a mix of fury and disgust. Investments from our elderly parents, who have dementia and a dwindling retirement, who rely on us for everything? While I'm here scraping by, sacrificing my own career, draining my own savings for their care, you're siphoning off their meager retirement for your expansion? You're their son too, David. You don't get to just steal from them, and then pretend you're a visionary entrepreneur facing cash flow challenges. I grabbed my car keys, my heart pounding, and stormed out, leaving them all stunned and silent. The confrontation was brutal, messy, and utterly devastating. David, cornered and exposed, clung to his narrative of misguided investments and righteous indignation, perhaps genuinely believing his actions were justifiable under his own financial pressures. My parents, their denials shattered, were caught in the crossfire. Both of us had understandable, though deeply flawed, motivations, leaving behind a wreckage of a family. The immediate aftermath of that explosive confrontation was a profound, suffocating silence. I drove away from my parents' house in a daze, the printout of the bank statements burning a hole in my lap, my body shaking uncontrollably. The white-hot rage that had fueled my outburst slowly drained away, replaced by a chilling numbness, then a crushing wave of grief. It felt like I hadn't just ended a fight, I had detonated my entire family structure, the one I had so painstakingly held together, only to discover it was built on a foundation of deceit and profound imbalance. The betrayal, the explicit evidence of David's financial abuse of our vulnerable parents, was a physical ache in my chest, a constant, gnawing pain that made it hard to breathe. For the first few days, I was a ghost in my own life. I barely ate, and sleep was an elusive torment, plagued by nightmares of David's furious face, Dad's confused whimpers, and Mom's utterly lost expression. My mind raced, constantly replaying every word of the argument, every subtle slight from the past, every instance of our parents' unwavering, almost blind, support for David. I felt foolish, utterly naive, for not having dug deeper sooner, for trusting that the charming, older brother would truly honor our parents' financial security. The guilt also started to creep in, an insidious whisper suggesting I was too harsh, too selfish, too quick to expose such a devastating truth in front of my ailing father and bewildered mother. Had I been too extreme? Did I destroy any chance of reconciliation by revealing the depths of his deception so brutally and publicly? My daily life became an almost unbearable burden. The relentless demands of Dad's care, which hadn't magically disappeared, now felt even heavier, amplified by the emotional chasm that had opened up. I still had to coordinate caregivers, manage his medications, and ensure his safety, but now I did it with a crushing sense of isolation and a new, terrifying fear about their long-term financial security. The conflict also profoundly affected my other relationships. My closest friend, Ben, who often visited me at my shop to talk about classic cars, was my unwavering rock. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, offered constant validation, and held me as I cried for hours. "You had to expose it, Mark," he insisted, his voice gentle but firm. "You did the right thing. This isn't your fault she did this." Other friends, whom I finally confided in, were shocked but supportive, validating my feelings of injustice. But even their support couldn't fill the void left by the potential loss of my family, or the terrifying silence from David. My parents were distraught. My mother called, her voice frail, begging me to think of the family, and not ruin things permanently by going after David. She seemed completely unable to grasp the severity of his actions, or the fundamental breach of trust, often trying to shift blame onto me for the drama. This inability to see my perspective, to acknowledge their deep-seated favoritism, felt like a final, crushing betrayal. The silence from David was deafening. No calls, no texts, no attempts at reconciliation. It was as if I had become a ghost in his life, and the thought was excruciating. The grief for the lost sibling bond, for the shared history that now felt irrevocably tainted by deception, was almost unbearable. I missed the carefree brother I thought I had, even as I resented the thief he had become. The weight of it all, the loneliness, the confusion, and the terrifying uncertainty of what comes next, felt utterly crushing. It's been almost 3 weeks since the explosion at my parents' house, and the silence from David is absolute. My parents are in a state of fragile denial, alternating between pleading with me to forgive and forget, for the sake of family unity, and subtly blaming me for causing a scene. Ben has been my unwavering anchor, my steadfast presence through this storm, but I feel the strain on him. I've spent countless sleepless nights replaying every moment of that confrontation, every subtle slight from childhood, every unacknowledged sacrifice. My mind is a whirlwind of conflicting emotions and doubts, and I desperately need an outside perspective to make sense of this wreckage. Was I too harsh? Did I go too far by publicly exposing David's actions and calling him a thief? I understand that from his perspective, he might genuinely have seen those funds as his parents' investment in his future, perhaps even believing he was entitled to them given his perceived status as the important child with the riskier career. He might truly feel that my steady job means I didn't need that money as much as he did for his struggling ventures. Perhaps he believes I'm just jealous of his artistic freedom and trying to ruin his reputation out of spite. Is my years of pent-up resentment and exhaustion coloring my judgment, making me an unfair accuser, an ungrateful brother? On the other hand, the weight of being perpetually overlooked, of having my sacrifices and independent successes minimized while David was secretly siphoning off our elderly parents' meager retirement funds, feels like a profound, lifelong injustice. This wasn't a minor oversight. It was a calculated act of financial abuse against our vulnerable, ailing parents, committed while I was pouring my life into their care. It's not just about the money, it's about the emotional invalidation, the feeling that his entitlement knew no bounds, and that he was willing to steal from his own parents. Was it wrong of me to finally demand accountability and justice for Mom and Dad, even if it meant a dramatic, public confrontation that shattered our family's fragile peace? I felt like I was fighting for my parents' dignity, for their financial security, and for the acknowledgement of my own worth, not just as a caregiver, but as an equal child. So, Reddit, I'm turning to you because I'm lost and heartbroken. Was I wrong for finally exposing my brother's financial exploitation of our parents, leading to a complete rupture in our family relationships? Was my outburst justified, a necessary act to finally protect Mom and Dad from further financial harm and liberate myself from years of being overlooked and exploited? Or did I simply destroy any chance of reconciliation and cause irreversible pain, making myself the villain in this tragic story? I need honest, unbiased perspectives, because right now, I'm consumed by guilt, grief, and confusion, and I don't know how to navigate this fractured family dynamic or secure my parents' future.